The Point of View is sponsored by First National Bank. First National Bank, how can we help you? And Cowbell Coffee. Cowbell Coffee. Taste it, love it.
Welcome to The Point of View. This is your favorite current affairs show on television. Here on The Point of View, we pick the right topics, get the right guests, ask them relevant questions on the issues that matter to you. We're live and interactive tonight as Ghana goes vaccine hunting. President announced a few months ago different amounts of vaccines he was expecting us to get before June ending. Well, we're in the middle of June and we vaccinated double dose, not up to 400,000 people. In fact, maybe about 800 and something thousand got their first single dose. We also talk about the controversy surrounding using middlemen to procure vaccines from various places. I have a very interesting panel who will be telling us what they know about this quest to secure vaccines for Ghana. Stay with us.
Woke up this morning.
Nothing wakes me up better than a cup of cowbell coffee. Delicious coffee aroma.
How can you forget your lines again?
I'm sorry, sir, just that it tastes really good.
Cowbell coffee.
Enjoy the delicious creamy coffee taste of 3-in-1 Cowbell coffee.
It's a beautiful day.
Waiting.
Cowbell coffee. Taste it, love it.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Welcome back. So tonight we are trying to understand what government is trying to do with securing vaccines. They've been essentially running from helter-skelter, and this is not even just an expression. It's actually true. I'll read you a couple of stories around where we've tried to get vaccines from and why it's proving so difficult. We'll also deal with the issue of dealing with a middleman to get some quantity of Sputnik V vaccines, whether we've paid any amount of money for that or not, and what that means. But my guests are three. In studio, immediate past Deputy Minister for Health, a medical doctor, and still a member of the Ghana COVID Task Force, Dr. Bernard Okoboy. Great to have you, Doc. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Senior Radier.
Good to see you again.
Yes, good to see you.
In your bow tie as ever.
Always a pleasure being here.
The African type. Great to have you. Yeah. We have a member of the NDC COVID-19 team, a medical doctor by profession, Dr. Grace Ayinsu Dankwa, joining us via Zoom from the holy village of Sekendi Takrade. Doc, good evening.
Good evening, Bernard. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Good to have you. And
thank you, and good evening to your guest as well.
Fantastic. I also have a research fellow at the West Africa Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens, Dr. Abedi. Doc, good evening. Great to have you.
Good evening, Bernard. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Let me start with a story that the Finder wrote. Elvis Dak wrote a story which sort of summarizes government of Ghana's attempt to get vaccines. So it basically says, Ghana has signed undertakings with 3 different COVID-19 vaccine suppliers to procure 20 million doses to inoculate Ghanaians. The total commitment so far will cost government close to $300 million. All the undertakings include an option to opt out of any obligation if the supply conditions are not met. Then it gives the breakdown. Private office of Sheikh Ahmed Dalmouk. Government has signed or has agreed to buy 3.4 million doses of Sputnik V vaccines at a unit cost of $19 from the private office of Sheikh Ahmed Dalmouk Al Maktoum. The 3.5 million doses of Sputnik V vaccine will translate into $64.6 million. But government has placed orders for 300,000 doses at a cost of $5.7 million, which are yet to be delivered. Take note of that point. So government is expecting to procure a total amount of vaccines in excess of 3 million, but has placed an order for 300,000 doses. Now, the government has placed an order for over 12.6 million doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccine from the Africa Vaccine Acquisition Trust, known as AVAT, through an Africa Medical Supplies Platform, AMSP. The J&J vaccine is a single-dose shot to help prevent COVID. The AVAT through the Africa Supplies Platform, which is being promoted by the AU, is being supported financially by the Africa Exim Bank based in Egypt. Under this arrangement, government is to make up front payment of $90 million, representing 15% of the total cost of $126.6 million. Now, Chief Director of the Health Ministry, whose picture we posted a couple of seconds ago, Kwabena Boedu Okunafari, told the finder that government requested for the supply of AstraZeneca, Sputnik V, and J&J. However, he said AVAT wrote to Ghana government saying it could only supply J&J since it is unable to secure AstraZeneca and Sputnik V. According to him, AVAT supply could go as far as 2022, and Ghana has the opportunity to request for more from AVAT. Ghana has also agreed to buy 5 million doses of Sputnik V from a third company called SL Global Limited. He said SL Global Limited, after negotiations, agreed to supply the Sputnik V at $18.5 million instead of $18.5 instead of $26 per dose given initially, and then it gives some other details. So we are looking at different places. It also talks about government resorting to third party because the 5 million doses of Sputnik V translates into 92.5 million, and it's supplied within 5 months. The company is to supply 1 million Sputnik V COVID vaccines every 30 days, spanning the 5-month period. So clearly, we are vaccine shopping. We've had to resort to third parties because initially in the statement authored by this man, it was difficult to get the Russian government to commit to give us any vaccine. We also know there's something called the RFID. So let's start with Bernardo Kuboy. You're a former Deputy Minister of Health. Yeah. You've been part of this process before the new government was formed.
Yeah.
Is this thing accurate from what you know?
Yes.
Is this correct?
Yes, these are factual. So the Sputnik vaccine is developed by the Gamaleya Research Institute in Russia. Now, they were funded by the Russia Direct Investment Fund. It's a sovereign wealth fund. They funded them to develop the vaccine. So if you are a country and you want to get the Sputnik V vaccine, you have to go through the RDIF, the Russian Development Investment Fund, the Russia Direct Investment Fund. But there is something I want to disclose here. There is a registered company in the Middle East called Orogov, AUROGULF. Orogov invested about $5 billion into the development of the Sputnik vaccine. And so they have an agreement with RDIF, which makes them trade in Sputnik vaccines. In fact, they have a secure minimum 50 million doses of Sputnik at their disposal, which they decide to sell to whoever they like. That's Orogov in the Middle East. Now, so because of this history, there are two routes to getting Sputnik vaccines. Either you go to RDIF, which is the direct agency of the Russians. That one is G2G, government to government. But even with that, there is a facilitator. Facilitator means that the Russian government certifies someone who must be dealing with you through RDIF. But when you go through Orogov, if you want to get it from these guys who invested in the development of the vaccine, you must go through an agent. And they've certified a number of companies as agents who can come and trade with them. I hope you get what I mean. So now, I've heard those who said, why didn't government deal with the Russian government? We made efforts to get through Russia, to their deputy foreign affairs minister, through the Russian government, all that. After all those efforts, finally what they told us that get to the facilitator. It means they have an agent in Ghana registered who would be, facilitating our contacts with them. Now, there are proposals that are on the books as we speak with government since we made the effort. And Bernard, it's not everything we can disclose. But the point I want to make is that there are clauses and items that we have to renegotiate and go through. And one of the issues I'll mention quickly is that some of the conditions involve things like locking yourself in. When we say lock in, let's say you say, I want a minimum of 20 million doses. Meaning, If you don't order the 20 or let's say 50 million doses, then the deal cannot go through. And in dealing with vaccines, you have to be careful. Every country is careful to lock in because supply conditions can be better in the next 1 month. You see, now everybody is going around looking for the vaccines. There's severe constraints on supply. But it will not be like that forever. So if you go and lock yourself in, Ghana will need 40 million doses vaccines to cover 20 million people. As we speak, we've had, let's say, close to 1 million. Or let's say, when you put everything together, let's say about 1.5 million doses. Now, if you need 40 million and one source is telling you, lock yourself in for 20 million.
Which source is telling us that?
Dealing directly with RDI, that's the Russian government, the direct G2G, government to government. So these are things we are renegotiating.
So you're saying that in Ghana government tried to deal with the Russians through RDIF.
Yes, you have to do it.
And RDIF wanted to lock us into how many vaccines?
Yeah, so
how many doses?
Some of the conditions involve locking in to, let's say, minimum 15, 20 million. I mean, there's a quantity. I don't want to disclose all the details because we are still on the table trying to negotiate.
Are you trying to say that was why we decided to go through Orogov?
Yeah, so the point is that as you go through RDIF, first of all, there are conditions. If the conditions are inimical, you don't rush and sign because there will be consequences. So what you do is that as you sit on the table, and we are dealing with a pandemic, in a year, a lot of things can happen. In fact, if we go through this agreement and it is signed, it doesn't mean the next day you are getting the vaccines. It can take 3 months, it can take 6 months. Average, we are talking about 6 months, a year and all that. You want to cover the most vulnerable of your population. So time is of the essence. So since the Russian government themselves have created 2 routes, the first one is RDIF, which can be dealt with only by governments. And then there's the Orogov, which trades on the international market. I hope you get my point. So
are you aware that the AU, according to the NDC, I'll come to Grace shortly,
Yeah.
the AU bought 300 million doses of Sputnik V. Slovakia and Hungary have also bought Sputnik V vaccine. Did they also use Orogov or they did RDIF directly?
Yes, so there are 2 routes. You have to check. But the 2 routes I've mentioned are certified. I mean, you can Google, you can check Orogov.
Yeah, I understand that, but you're basically saying that
Yes.
we are choosing to go through the Orogov, which in my view is a middle person.
No. But the point is that I said, even in dealing with the Russian government, it's not the foreign affairs minister who sees the foreign affairs minister. There is a facilitator. That's how they call it. The Russian government, in dealing with you through RDIF, gives you a facilitator. Someone who would.
So was it the Russian government who gave us the person we dealt with for this $19 per dose vaccine?
They are accredited by Orogov, who also have been mandated by the Russia RDIF, the Russian government. The Russian government have given Orogov the authority to deal with entities. I've told you they have minimum 50 million doses that they are taking away from the Russian government. They invested $5 billion. They are a profit-making entity who invested funds into the development of Sputnik V. And the Russian government has recognized them as such and has allocated vaccines to them. So if you are a country, you are a company, you are an entity, you can go to Orogov and try and buy vaccines. I hope that point is clear. But if you are a private company, let's say Avle and Co., and you go to RDI, they will not deal with you. They will direct you to Orogov.
But we are a country.
Good. And I'm saying that countries can go to RDIF through the route I've shown you, where you deal with a facilitator. But there are conditions. I've showed you one. One is locking yourself in. Locking in means that, well, you want to buy Sputnik at 10 USD. That is fine. But please, you have to order in 120 million copies. Your total needs as a country is 40 million. One source says lock in. If you rush and lock in now, in a month's time, vaccine supply can be so adequate that you would have committed yourself. So now, this is what government is trying to do. Because the Orogov route is there, they deal with accredited agents. SL Global, the one you read, they be accredited by Orogov. Yes, the Sheikh's company. Remember, Maktoum's company brought 20,000 doses of Sputnik V. These are badges that can be tracked directly to Russia where it was produced. So the fact that they have access from Orogov tells you that they are also accredited to.
So it was a proof of concept they sent. So how come we are in the middle of June, they've not supplied?
Good. So I mean that is not unique only to Sputnik. The European Union told you they made orders to AstraZeneca and they were fighting them because they even took them to court because of the supply challenges. If all vaccine suppliers are under stress, so there are occasions where you've made orders and then the others fail to materialize. As for the first one, what I know from my information dealing with the ministry and all that, the LC, we're supposed to produce an LC that will make sure that immediately they produce the first 300,000, they can be paid. When we produced the LC, they said they wanted to check with their partner finance institutions whether they were comfortable with the LC. That took some time. By the time they sent communication to government of Ghana that the LC was fine, apparently the stock had run out.
Let's talk to Dr. Grace
Yes.
Ayinso Dankwa. Doc, thanks for joining us. The minority issued a statement, 4 pages, outlining their concerns with this government approach for procuring what they call the overpriced Sputnik V vaccine. Can you give us a quick summary of that position and why you are concerned that government is doing the wrong thing?
Thank you very much, Bernard. And going on Dr. Okoboy's argument, he's talking about the 2 options, the IDF with the government to government and the ORGOV. The argument he's making is turning itself on its head, because it doesn't make sense that if you can go directly to the government and buy from the government, which can actually ensure you that maybe your product will be a better product or not a substandard product, why would you then go for the second option, which is the ORGOV, even if the entity has been licensed or authorized by the Russian government? And why would you go for a higher price? And I'm not sure what he means by that the government is going to be locked in. From our point of view, the issue is, first of all, that Ghana is an executive member of the WHO. So we could have used our connections. The Russian government has government-to-government agreements that we could have also used that option with the IDF. So what we are saying is that we would have been better off going with a government-to-government agreement with Sputnik. The issue also is that even though we have the 2 options, the ORGOV, they still haven't even provided those vaccines. They brought us the first 15,000 or 16,000 vaccines, which from all of our checks, they were mismatched. Second of all, in the president's, I think, last address on COVID, he told us that the Sputnik vaccine, which is 300,000 doses, were going to be delivered by May 15th, which would be the first tranche of it. And up to now, we're in June, and those vaccines have not even materialized. So what we see going on with this, first of all, with the vaccine, with the Sputnik vaccine coming from a third party, is that WHO has already issued communiques telling us, warning countries not to buy buying from illicit intermediaries. These specific intermediaries, you know that we have had a track record with these intermediaries in a previous deal. Second of all, they have no track record that they have supplied vaccines to any other country that we know of. So at the time that we were making a deal with them, we don't think that would have been the right route to go. Second of all, the prices, it was overpriced at $19. The Sputnik or the Russians had already put out a review or communique that said that the vaccines on the market was like at no more than $10 per dose. They are buying it at an inflated price at $19. We still haven't received it, and we are almost in the second week of June. The quality of the vaccines that are coming from Sputnik, we don't even know if they are substandard or not, because remember, like I said, the WHO had already warned countries for going for third-party intermediary vaccines. I mean, we believe that vaccines especially are not stuff that you buy off of third market. It's like you're going to the black market to buy vaccines. How do you ensure the authenticity of those vaccines? That they're not substandard.
So even if the intermediary is approved by the RDIF.
But we know that these intermediaries, we've already had a record with them, a past history with them. Based on these specific intermediaries, all the research shows that there's a lot of other shady deals that these intermediaries have done. This issue is not even about the intermediaries. It's more about the Ghana government going to these specific intermediaries to buy vaccines, which as of today, they haven't materialized. We have paid for 300,000 doses, and we've only received 15,000 or maximum 16,000 doses. And all our research shows that even the 15,000 doses that we received were mismatched. So they have no track record of selling vaccines. There seem to be shady characters from previous experience. They haven't produced the vaccines that we have already paid for. We are still in the middle of June, and we still don't even know if those vaccines, the first tranche that we paid for, are even going to materialize.
So let's be clear. Have we paid for any vaccines?
Yeah, Ben, I think, first of all...
I believe that we paid for 300,000, which was the first batch.
You don't have to believe, since we have the facts.
Okay, so the state... Have we paid for 300,000?
It's an LC. It matures on delivery. Until you produce the vaccines, not even one cedis has been committed.
So for listeners of viewers, a letter of credit. Essentially, the bank is saying the people who want to buy the vaccine are in good standing. If you deliver the vaccine, we will pay.
Absolutely. And the Sheikh, the company, the Maktoum Group, is 3.4 million in all that we've signed. We can opt out at any time. But the LC is for 300,000, how do you call it?
Doses.
Yes. In fact, the LC is for the, yes, we paid 5.7 million, which is for the 300,000 at 19 USD. So it is only when they supply that the LC will mature. So as we speak, we've not spent or paid anybody any amount for work not done. It is only when they supply that we are going to get.
So that point is clear, Grace. But yes. On the issue of the cost, the 19.
Yes, I think, let me say it here clearly. The 10 USD is the ex-factory price. So even if Ghana is buying directly from the Russian government through RDIF, we must pay for handling, logistics, getting the vaccine from the factory to Kotoka International Airport. So assuming the worst, that we are not even using agents with the Orogov group, still the worst it will come to, when I did my checks, I learned shipping and logistics for a vaccine per dose, you are looking at between 2.5 to 3 USD. So even if government of Ghana goes for these vaccines directly from Russia, we are not going to spend $10 per vaccine. I think that must be clear.
But the $9 markup for the things you mentioned is a bit high because we bought AstraZeneca. Yes. We know the amount AstraZeneca cost. Yeah. We didn't pay plus $9
and I'm coming there.
for the cost and all those.
Yes,
the
I'm
freight.
coming there. Even manufacturers charge different prices to different entities based on the negotiation and what is on the table. So for example, South Africa bought AstraZeneca one for 5 USD. The European Union bought it for 2 USD for one.
Was it from the same place?
Good. So
because there's one they do in serum in India, the other they do in the UK.
It's the same manufacturer, just that the production can be at different places. But you deal with
if I buy a Nike shoe from China, it's not the same as buying from America.
But with vaccines, it's not like that.
No, I'm saying that the Serum Institute probably because of certain efficiencies in India, they can charge cheaper.
Don't make that mistake. For vaccines, it's not that when it comes from India, the quality is low. For vaccines, it's about it's one thing to develop a vaccine, another to produce.
So go ahead.
So
you're telling me that the difference between the factory price and the transportation and all that is the $9?
No. So the point I make is that as those who are calling for direct engagement with the Russian government, if Ghana were to deal directly and get the vaccines here today, it will not be at 10 USD.
But it will not be at 19.
Good, I'm coming there. So the point is that the same Russian government that developed the vaccine, remember, and people want to put this away, but we can't put it away. This Orogov group invested $5 billion into the development of the Sputnik vaccine. And for that matter, the Russian government has given them a consignment for them to trade in. Now, look, the NDC group is not privy to the terms and conditions that the Russian government is putting on the table. Bernard, I've given you one of them. There are others. But because we are still talking, I don't want to disclose all. But the point I'm making is that there are conditions and terms that we have to satisfy ourselves with. But until we do that, the other routes still exist.
Why haven't we used the 16,000 that they sent earlier?
The 20...
they sent 16,000 as
they sent 15,000 and 5,000 came later.
We haven't even used one dose of Sputnik. FDA told us that they were still going through it. Now, if you're going to give somebody an LC for 300,000 doses, And you've not even used the first 15,000.
I think.
What are you trying to do?
I think it's very. What happened was that I think this also must be made clearly. All the vaccines that came in, there are batch numbers. Vaccines are not like maybe some banana and things that we cannot track where it came from. Every vaccine has a batch number, which you can track straight to where it was produced. This was done, and it was identified that this came from the Gamaleya Institute. The only issue that was detected was that for the vaccines, unlike the AstraZeneca, that is the same vaccine that you take twice. For the Russian one, it is pegged. So what you take, the first one you take is not the same thing that you take the second. It's a different type. But the two come together to form the complete dosage.
So what they sent was incomplete?
No. There was the pairing. I think what I gathered from those who received them is that the pairing was not as FDA expected. So I think and then this overpriced issue. Something. Bernard.
You've been on too many programs.
Sorry, Bernard. I think the point here which people must get is that, one, the Orogov group has accredited companies to deal in the sales of the vaccines. Number two, the $10 that is mentioned is the ex-factory price. If you decide to go for that one, you have to deal with a facilitator. Now, even with that, you are not getting maybe in a month or two. It can be 3 months, 6 months, and 1 year. Ghana government wants to cover the most vulnerable. And as we speak, I'm happy and proud to mention that when it comes to vaccine coverage in Ghana, we are one of the
We'll get
most,
there.
Yes,
I need to talk to Dr. Abediako when we come back briefly.
Bernard.
No, Doc, wait, don't worry. I'll come back to you. I also have Dr. Abediako on. I'll take a short break. When I come back, I'll even find out whether the Sputnik is even approved at all. Because when you go to the WHO's website with a list of approved vaccines, at least from what I see, I don't yet see Sputnik. I see BioNTech. I see AstraZeneca. I see Janssen something, Clang something. Yeah. I see Moderna. I see BIBP Sinopharm. And I see Verocell Sinovac something. I don't see Sputnik on WHO's website. We'll talk about that.
That's an important point.
And also find out from Dr. Abediako whether the routes we've used and the type of vaccines we are getting are actually optimal for the kind of COVID we have here. I also have Dr. Grace on the line as well. This is the point of view. Stay with us.
In Africa, help is what we do. That is why we, at First National Bank, are relentlessly driven to provide real help to you. The passionate and courageous, the creators and the optimists. These are the entrepreneurs we support, the communities we uplift. It is because of you that real help is what we do. First National Bank, how can we help you?
Bonsoir, monsieur. Madame. Et voilà.
Babe, what is this?
This is the escargot. And the foie gras. Oui.
Where did she go?
You pa one kasa who say obase your pay feedian.
It's been long since you ever felt like this.
Welcome to the best in Ghanaian entertainment on Aquaba Magic. Welcome home to Aquaba Magic on DSTV channel 150. It's your moment. DSTV.
It's a good day to meet every challenge. It's a good day to want more out of life. It's a good day to wish for it, work for it, go get it. Familiar taste, a delicious indulgent with a flavor you just can't hide. Refreshing energy gives so much for so little. For a strong performance, you've come to the right place. Good Day Energy Drink. Why wait a minute to enjoy a good day when every second counts? Good Day Energy Drink keeps you going.
Excessive drinking can be detrimental to your health. Not recommended for persons under 18 years, lactating mothers, pregnant women, and people sensitive to caffeine. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Welcome back to The Point of View. Tonight we're trying to understand government of Ghana's attempts to get vaccines. We had been promised many millions of doses. As we speak, we've vaccinated twice, only 300,000 people. About 800,000 got their first dose. We've tried to get vaccines through the various means, the AVAT means. We are trying to get J&J. We are trying to get Sputnik V, and of course AstraZeneca. My guest, Dr. Okoboy, former Deputy Minister of Health, member of Ghana's COVID-19 response team. Dr. Grace Ayinsu Dankwa, member of NDC's COVID-19 team. I also have Dr. Yaobediako, researcher or research fellow, West African Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens. Doc, let me come to you now. So I think we need to deal with some basic issues before we even get to the complex issues of cost and things. I have gone to the WHO's website and I've seen some of the vaccines that they have approved. And for some reason, I can't see Sputnik V. Am I reading the wrong place? Or is there a problem with their website? Or what's going on there?
No, you're not wrong. WHO has not approved Sputnik V. WHO has been gradually reviewing different vaccines and adding to their list. But currently, Sputnik V is not on it. And I think there was a time when the Russian government had not submitted Sputnik V to the WHO. Obviously, sometimes there are these geopolitical issues also at play. So for a while, the Russians had refused to submit to WHO. I'm not sure if they have now. I know they submitted to the European Medical Agency, which is another large continental regulatory body. And it is under review. It has actually, I think, been under review for a few months. So currently, Sputnik V is not approved officially by any of the large recognized agencies. It's not approved by the US FDA, but it's a Russian vaccine. We can expect that Russia is never going to submit it to US FDA. That is that's not going to happen. But it's not approved by the WHO and it's not approved by European Medical Agency. It has been submitted to the European Medical Agency and it's under review. If you check online, I think the latest statement was that there's like a rolling review and they are awaiting more information before they can make a determination. So a number of countries have approved Sputnik V themselves for emergency use authorization, including Ghana, based on their FDA sort of systems. But many of these countries, including Ghana, have done this largely based on information obviously submitted by the manufacturer. In many countries, Ghana included, we are a little bit, we have a very good FDA. I'll be on record to say that our FDA is highly regarded around the world, but we still do not quite have the capacity to do actual lab tests on the efficacy of these vaccines. So a lot of the time we depend on recommendations from other places or on data that is supplied during the application process. So Brazil, Sputnik was in the news a little while ago because Brazil withdrew. Brazil had made a very large order, and then their FDA found some things they were not too happy about, and they canceled the order. It turns out, I think 5 days ago, they now went back a little bit and approved a limited order because they are facing a huge crisis, and right now you cannot be too picky. So they basically completely reduced their order. They're allowing a small trickle of Sputnik into the country. The idea being that they will run an efficacy trial within Brazil and develop their own data. So I think, that is the latest. From the science on Sputnik V, the trial that was done, that was published in the Lancet, was largely done in Russia. You compare that to the trials of Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson that were done in many countries, including at least in South Africa. Sputnik V has not been trialed really anywhere else outside of Russia, at least in data that has been reported. So there are, scientifically, we know less about Sputnik V, but you have to balance that with the fact that there are not a lot of vaccines available, and so countries are trying to get what they can get. But we have to bear in mind that as far as recognized large continental agencies that have provided approvals, you won't find Sputnik V at this time on any of their lists.
So in an ideal world, should we have trialed Sputnik V in Ghana before placing an order?
I mean, we should have done many trials. I mean, I've repeatedly said that Ghana, we hurt ourselves when we don't join clinical trials. South Africa did for AstraZeneca, but for the issues in India with supply and the huge, outbreak in India, South Africa would have been way ahead because they would have had preferential access to AstraZeneca vaccine because they signed up for the trial. Johnson & Johnson, the same thing. South Africa was an African country involved, and they have, I think right now there are a few issues with supply, but they're ahead of the line. Once you join the trial, you get to the front of the line, and you also know whether the vaccine will work. AstraZeneca, we all remember, was sort of pulled from South Africa when they realized that it didn't work very well in their context. We don't have the benefit of that kind of data because we haven't done a trial. So yes, perhaps those initial 15,000 doses that were delivered could have been used in a trial led by Ghanaian scientists to just get a sense of how it works. I think that was maybe an opportunity that perhaps should have been pursued. Okay. I don't know if that was something that was done.
So we know we have tried to get J&J through something called the Africa Vaccine Acquisition Trust.
Yeah.
We've gotten some AstraZeneca through COVAX, and now we're trying to get Sputnik V. What do you know of the relative virtues of these three brands, apart from the cost? I have the cost I'll put on the screen, so I don't need to go into the cost issues. But again, you've already explained Sputnik V hasn't been sort of trialed by some of the recognized bodies. But between J&J and AstraZeneca, would you understand why I would opt for those and not, say, Moderna or Pfizer?
In terms of efficacy, the most efficacious vaccines are Moderna and Pfizer. That is undisputable. The numbers are there. Pfizer and Moderna are, I don't want to say the best, but they have efficacies in the 90%. No other vaccine has come close to touching 90% efficacy. AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca efficacy levels and this is important, efficacies are a moving target as the variants change. So we have to keep that in mind. When these numbers were first put out there for efficacy of AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, it was based on more recently, the Alpha variant, which is we used to call the UK variant. Now, that variant, compared to the original Wuhan strain, there was a small drop in efficacy, but we're still pretty high up. It was still in the 70% for AstraZeneca and in the 98, 97% efficacy for Pfizer. The problem we have now, and Johnson & Johnson is around, Johnson & Johnson actually performs quote unquote the worst. I mean, Johnson & Johnson is somewhere in the 60% efficacy, but it's a single shot, so it has that advantage. You don't have to give people 2 vaccinations. Now, with the new Delta variant that emerged in India, we are seeing a significant shift. 2 doses of Pfizer still gives you about 93% efficacy, but a single dose of Pfizer is only 30% efficacious against Delta. That is a drop from over 80% to 30%. So Alpha variant, 1 shot of Pfizer, you're still 80% protected from disease, from infection. Now, a single dose of Pfizer only gives you 30% protection against Delta. When you get 2 doses, you go back up to 80%. Now, that means that for the vaccines that are a little less efficacious than Pfizer, the drop-off is also now worrying, because it's one thing to drop from 90 to 80, but when you're already around 70 or 60, and now you are dropping towards 50%. When you're at 50%, it's like 1 in 2 chance of getting infected. So we have to keep that in mind, that the efficacy is also moving as the variants change. And now we have the emergence. This Delta variant does not play. This Delta variant is why India is suffering the way it is suffering. And it is extremely concerning for us.
So we don't know how J&J and AstraZeneca will do with this new variant. If Pfizer is dropping from 90 to 30, then J&J and AstraZeneca, it will be in the teens or the tens.
Well, the UK has released data just the last couple of days that against severe, now the companies are being clever. They are talking about severe disease versus infection. So against severe disease, AstraZeneca, 2 doses, mind you, 2 doses of AstraZeneca still give you around 90% protection against severe disease. Before, efficacy was measured by infection. So AstraZeneca was only 70%, but against severe disease, it was 98%. It was very effective against severe disease. Now, with the new variant, it has dropped to around 92% for AstraZeneca. I think around 95% for Pfizer, but that is against severe disease. And that is with 2 doses. Like I said, you need now 2 doses. Now, that is critical for us in Ghana because we only have about 300,000 people who have received 2 doses. Everybody else who has received a vaccine has only had one dose. And we are now at the 12-week, going beyond 12 weeks. The UK, for this very reason, has reversed. The UK was talking about 12 weeks between doses. For people at high risk, people over 50 and frontline healthcare workers, the UK has now shifted back to 8 weeks because they are trying to get everybody on 2 doses because the Delta variant is now dominating in the UK. So the Delta variant is now responsible for a growing number of cases. So the UK, in response to the shift in variants, has now shortened their interval. But they can do that because they have access to vaccine. Ghana right now, I think we've almost exhausted our second tranche of vaccines. And we still have probably 600,000 people who have received a single dose of AstraZeneca and so are potentially vulnerable if we get Delta. So against Alpha, 1 dose was fine. You were still okay. You had probably 60% protection. And then when you get the second dose, it boosted.
All right.
But
Thank you for that.
We are realizing that.
No, I think this is great. So let me ask Dr. Kobe. So this is serious.
Yeah.
Your Russia Sputnik has not been approved by any international organization. Your J&J has the lowest efficiency. And your AstraZeneca that is cheaper too. You don't have enough of it. So you are really...
So
what are you doing?
You know, I think it's very important to realize that as we speak, if you look at a country like Togo, their coverage, those who have had even one shot, is about 1.9% of their population. Nigeria, 1% of the population. They had 4 million from COVAX. They decided to split it into 2 and give 2 million and then repeated the 2 million instead of we who tried to cover a lot of folks. So Nigeria is 1%. Kenya, when I checked, is about 1.9%. And Ivory Coast is about 2%. Ghana is doing 3.3%.
Based on the 300,000 or based on the single dose?
Based on the 900,000. Because, you know, Doc said something which is very important. The vaccines, initially, people were thinking of only prevention of infection. But there are 2 other things that are the most critical or beneficial of vaccines, which is preventing severe illness, because that's what puts pressure on your health system. And the third one, death, which is mortality. Now, the question is that, is it wiser to try and scout other sources, get vaccines at a price which might be higher, so you are able to slow down infection rate and then reduce pressure on your health system? Or wait until, because the Africa, I'm happy you mentioned the AVAT platform, the Africa Vaccine Acquisition Trust, the one that we are using to source the Johnson & Johnson. The earliest they are telling us is the last quarter of this year or second quarter of next year. So because you are dealing with a disease, between now and second quarter of next year, it is possible that you would have lost a lot of your most vulnerable group. And I think this is the point that also must come out clearly, that at the end of the day, it might be cheaper to try and pay a little bit extra, because as we speak, the situation you are describing here is what is happening in the Ivory Coast, in Nigeria, in Kenya, in South Africa, in every country you go.
But are any of them using middlemen to get vaccines from Russia?
I've told you the Orogov group is certified by Russia. They invested in the development of the vaccine.
I understand that, but I'm just saying that because I'm told even Guinea has managed to procure vaccines from Sputnik.
No, I think the readings, you have to be careful. I was on a program with someone who said Algeria has bought Sputnik vaccine at 10 USD. It turned out that Algeria received 50,000 doses of Sputnik, just as we got 20,000 doses. Again, from either agents or facilitators. I use 2 terms. A facilitator when it's Russian government giving you the person. An agent when it's coming from Orogov. So I think the point must be made clearly that the same Russian government that developed Sputnik V.
Yeah, but I'm saying, is there any African country using Orogov to procure vaccines?
Orogov, they are anyone who procures outside RDI. And as I speak, any country that has had Sputnik, they were just giving just as we were giving 20,000. They've not purchased. They've only made orders.
So we are taking a risk by using Orogov.
But there are measures you put in to reduce that risk. The first measure is that because budgets can be tracked, our FDA makes sure that those things... And
you know the funny part? Yeah. Even the first budget centers will not even use it because the FDA can be sure that they have the second set from your own admission. So if you receive 16,000 you have not used, you've placed an order for 300,000 that you have given a letter of credit for, and you are going to get some other millions from a vaccine you haven't even used.
What came in, 1, were not expired vaccines. 2, were not fake vaccines. They were vaccines that were tracked all the way to Gamaleya Institute in Russia.
But you've not used them.
I'm coming. And I've told you, the reason why I've not used that, unlike AstraZeneca, where what you receive, you can split into 2 and give to the same person. For this one, they are paired. there's a separate one for the first dose and another one for the separate. It's not the same you use for the 2 doses. So we wanted to have both.
And if you've not done the 16,000, how are you sure the 300,000 you get it?
No, but it's zero risk. It's an LC. It's an LC. And you know what? Like I said, we can go to sleep.
Okay, let me just ask. Is the LC time bound? If they deliver in August, will we still pay?
No, we can. In fact, as we speak, we could have opted out. But you see, all these, the 3 people, SL Global, the 3 that have been certified so far to try to bring us the vaccines, they are all going to the same Orogov. They've all been certified. It's like competition. It's a market. Because we have nothing to lose, there's no need in being in a haste to withdraw. The most important thing is that you want the vaccines to come in. If it comes in, once delivered, the LC
But isn't there time allotted? Because isn't there a specific time they're supposed to deliver?
You know, you are not in normal times because of the supply constraints. Remember, you are trying to chase a product that is under severe stress.
Let me get Dr. Grace's comment on this. So
and quickly, the Sputnik doc mentioned that. I mean, my sister from the COVID, is it the NDC COVID group, said that we should use our connections in WHO. By the way, just want to inform her that it's not even WHO approved, so they are not going to be the ones to try and lead you to go and get Sputnik.
Yeah, but I'm still curious that with Ghana being on UN Security Council, with all our international clout, we still could not get direct. In fact, the Ministry of Health's statement initially said that our attempts to get vaccines through the bilateral government relationship proved unsuccessful. I don't want to take a comment on that.
In the League of Nations.
No, don't worry.
Bernard, in the League of Nations.
I want to take Dr.
With what is happening now,
you
think you can just walk to Russia and get vaccines ahead of Belarus and all their partners that they've been
what's your comment on that? The idea that Ghana cannot get a bilateral...
No, we have. I think that one too is not... We are still talking. I've told you.
No, but the statement from the ministry was very clear. They said we were unsuccessful in getting vaccines when we tried the government to government. Therefore, we use a middle person. And this statement was signed by the same Okunafari.
And I've told you that when we tried to reach their government official directly, they directed us to RDIF. And RDIF is telling us we work with facilitators. That's how they call it.
You are adding that information. The statement that came earlier was that it was unsuccessful.
But Bernard, I mean, everything around it cannot be in the statement.
Well, let me just take it. Yes, you are on air. Go ahead.
Bernard, the facilitator that the IDIF is using is completely different from a third-party procurement.
Yes, but it's a facilitator.
So let's make it clear.
Accepted
that. There are 2 completely different things. They are not the same. A third-party procurement is you're going to someone else who doesn't work with the company. When the Russian government, the IDIF, gives you a facilitator, it is like for instance, it's like a salesperson that works with a pharmaceutical company. Those are 2 different entities. So let's make it clear. I also agree with Dr. Bediako in terms of what the vaccine companies are doing now is that we need to get vaccinated to prevent severe COVID. And Dr. Okoboy also said that in the past, it used to be to prevent just infection. Now we want people to be vaccinated, first dose and second dose, so that when you are exposed to the virus, you don't get severe COVID enough to end up dead. So that is why it's important that we do that. And Dr. Okoboy also mentioned some of these countries that are vaccinated 1% and 2% and all that stuff. The issue when it comes to vaccination is not you can't compare yourself to other countries in that sense. What you need to do is what number do you have to get to the herd immunity? That's what vaccinations are all about. We need to vaccinate about 60 to 75% or 65 to 75% of our population to get to herd immunity. That is the target, and that is the goal that every vaccination campaign looks for. So currently, Ghana, we shouldn't be looking at Nigeria has done 2%, this person has done this, that person has done this. In order to protect our population, our goal has to be that we need to get enough vaccines to vaccinate people to reach herd immunity.
All right. We'll take a short break. This is still the point of view. We'll come back to you. Sorry, I'll take a short break. Stay with us. This is the point of view. We're trying to get to the bottom of government's attempt, scramble really, to get vaccines. J&J, AstraZeneca, Sputnik V. We still don't have as many as we want. We'll be right back.
It's not about where it's played, but how it's played. And when it's played on a stage this big by players this intense, it's anyone's game. UEFA Euro 2020. Get and stay connected to DSTV to watch UEFA Euro 2020 on dedicated SuperSport channels.
Good Day Energy Drink keeps you going. Available in major supermarkets and shops near you. Excessive drinking can be detrimental to your health. Not recommended for persons under 18 years, lactating mothers, pregnant women, and people sensitive to caffeine. This advert is FDA approved.
Welcome back. So let's conclude. I have Dr. Yabedi on the line. I also have Dr. Grace Ayunsu Danko and then Dr. Bernardo Koboy. Doc, Dr. Bediako, it's middle of June. We still haven't had anything apart from AstraZeneca. Based on all you know about the vaccine market and what the global superpowers are saying, how optimistic are you that we'll get anything? When do you expect us to get anything at all?
And if you have any contacts.
I mean, that is very difficult to answer. I think, I know, I mean, I believe that the government is working hard to try to secure. I think, my feeling is, and I would hope that, Sputnik should not really be our focus. After the G7, we didn't quite get the statements we probably were looking for in terms of large industrialized countries being fully committed. But I believe that there will be doses available from the US, from Europe. Those are the doses I think we need to chase, because what we really need to try to do, given the way the variant situation is, it's only a matter of time before the Delta variant is established in Ghana. And when that happens, we may need to adjust our strategy. So I think we have to be focusing on how can we get, in addition to getting more AstraZeneca in to complete the vaccination of the people who we vaccinated so far. I mean, that has to be first priority, to be honest.
Okay.
Because we currently have 600,000 people who need to get the second dose. And the window, it's not indefinite. Based on what we've seen with the variants, there is really no data beyond 12 weeks. Everybody else who used the 2 doses vaccinated in 12 weeks because they had the vaccine.
So it means we have only 300,000. The rest of the 600,000 are gone. 12 weeks is past.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are in uncharted territory. We don't know how effective the dosage would be if they get it later. It's still worth to vaccinate people and get their second dose, but it's not indefinite. We cannot wait to 20 weeks. So we need to get those vaccinated. Then we need to get other vaccines to supply. Now, feasibility, it's a moving game. So we just have to try as hard as we can and get as many different types of vaccines.
Great. Dr. Grace, will the NDC team help us with any leads? People are saying you're in opposition, so it's easy to say what they are doing is wrong. Can you help us get any vaccines? Do you know anybody who can give us Sputnik V for $10?
No, but the vaccines are not sold on the market. And like Dr. Bediako said, I think we should not follow the Sputnik vaccine. And it is quite obvious with the Sputnik vaccine that the middlemen have actually swerved us. That it's not going to be produced, we can tell so far since May, and every day we keep changing the time. So higher cost vaccines are probably not going to show up. They might be substandard or falsified COVID product. We don't know. So our recommendation is really not to go after the Sputnik vaccines because of the way we were trying.
Whether directly or indirectly. So even if we are going to the Russian government, we shouldn't go for Sputnik at all, or through the.
No, if you're going right now, like we have all discussed, the Sputnik vaccine itself has not been approved, but we can still go directly to the Russian government for an emergency supply.
So we shouldn't use the middle people. That's your point.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Our current, pardon?
Fair enough. Time. I think your point is clear. Thank you.
Yes, our current goal should be to go after more AstraZeneca from the COVAX program. The U.S.
Yes,
government
please.
has
Thank
put
you.
down 500 million doses. Those are the vaccines that we should be
Thank you.
pursuing. Either bilateral.
Thank you very much.
agreement with the US
Doc, final
and
point. Just a final point. When do you think we will get, government, optimistically, when does government think we will get the next batch?
If we were to be a lazy government, we'll just go to sleep and wait till COVAX says, get it, like they did with the 650. As we speak, COVAX can't tell us when they are giving us the next consignment. There is severe supply constraints globally because of what happened in India. The biggest manufacturing plant was Serum Institute of India. So what is happening in Ghana is a global issue.
So when will we get the next batch?
So what we are doing is that this government is engaging directly with other European countries who have stock of AstraZeneca and might not be using them or are not deploying them that much. The government is engaging directly.
So when are we hoping to get the next batch?
It will be difficult to state the specific. But that's an interesting point because it reminds us of the fact that this direct Russian government's engagement that we are talking about, this Africa platform we are using, most of them are telling us 6 months, 1 year before the vaccines will come. And remember, in a year, a lot of things can go wrong.
Thank you.
So we'll continue to explore. Remember, Israel paid 1.5 to 2 times the average price of Moderna and Pfizer to make sure that their population gets covered ahead of the US and Canada.
Thank you. Dr. Okubay is a member of the Ghana COVID-19 response team, former Deputy Minister of Health. Dr. Grace Ayensu Dankwa is a member of the NDC COVID-19 team. Dr. Albedi Akun is a research fellow at WAC-BIP. My name is Bernard Avle. Thank you very much. Stay safe. Coming up next is the City Business Dashboard.
The Point of View is sponsored by First National Bank. First National Bank, how can we help you? And Cowbell Coffee. Cowbell Coffee. Taste it, love it.